In this lesson, we'll add some detail to the head. So let's go ahead and begin to detail our character's head. And the first thing that I want to do is sort of define his mouth. So I'm going to grab the knife. Let's turn on steady stroke and increase the length just a little bit. Let's do a test here, and I'm just going to continue on the base layer here. So I'm going to go ahead and decrease my size just a little bit. And then I want to just pull back kind of in a straight line until we get to this sort of fleshy bit up here on the side of the cheek. Let's go ahead now and go to pinch. Get a fairly large brush size. We'll leave steady stroke on. And then let's come in and pinch that together. So coming in and just dragging along that mouth to kind of pinch it together. Okay. Let's also sort of define the shape down here a little bit. So I'm just going to get pull and a smaller brush size. I'm just going to come in and start to define this ridge a little bit more. So coming in here, and then this ridge underneath the chin I'll define a little bit as it comes back along here. So we want this to be sort of hard surface or sort of stiff compared to some of the fleshy parts. Okay, let's go ahead and pinch together the corners here. And let me turn off steady stroke so that we can get right in here. So we'll kind of pinch that together, maybe smooth it out a little bit. And then let's get wax and just sculpt a little bit of a kind of a flap over that coming around. Same thing here, kind of working up into the top of the head. So we get that little fleshy bit coming around, and we can do that around the back here as it goes. Let's get a larger brush size and start to work that down into the neck area a little bit. Let's grab our knife, increase the brush size. Let's turn off steady stroke. And then we can sort of emphasize or exaggerate these lines here a little bit. Okay, break them up a little bit so it's not quite so even. Coming around the top there, we can do the same thing down here. So we have a little bit of a detail here coming in along the chin. That's a little bit more sharp. Do the same thing down here. And then I want to just sharpen up this area that's right under the chin a little bit too. Okay, and kind of smooth that back in, but I want to have that kind of jaw right in here. Okay, let's also, with our knife selected and a low pressure, let's go ahead and draw sort of a ridge coming up along the head. And we can kind of smooth that back in. We just kind of emphasize that a little bit. Okay, then we can come in, if we want to create sort of a nostril, we can use the knife to sort of cut that in, right in there. And then use some of our other brushes to kind of push that in a little bit more. You can see we're running up against our polygon limit because of you can see that we're starting to get some faceting. We use wax to kind of add a little bit of mass to that. Maybe do the same thing up here. And just kind of smooth it back into the surface as you go. Just adding a little bit of shape here. You can do the same thing on the eye. Kind of work it back in. Okay, look around here and start to add a little bit more detail to the eye. So we can come in with our wax, kind of work that back in, go back and forth with a knife, and grab, kind of move that over a little bit. I'm just trying to do as much as I can at this level before moving on. I want to start to think about the wrinkles on this guy. So it's going to be a lot of soft surfaces on him. Areas that are going to be, you know, probably deforming. So in those areas, I want to create those wrinkles as if that skin has been folded a lot. Okay, and we can smooth back in some of those areas. Now on the top of the head here, you may not have as many of those wrinkles because you've got, you know, the skull in here, but you can start to work some wrinkles in down to the mouth, maybe smooth them back out a little bit. Same thing here. Start to work a few of those in. Going up along the head. And right now on this knife, if we take a look at our pressure, it's set to pen pressure. And so we can actually use, if you're using a tablet, you can actually use that to kind of drive that pressure. So the lighter you press, sort of the lighter it looks, less the pressure you're using. Kind of work it back into those wrinkles that we added on the back of the head. Just add some real light wrinkles coming back in here. Kind of smooth them back out a little bit. If you want to add some sort of scales up here, we can start to do that. Maybe just start it out using wax. Sculpt in on the back and then just blend it up towards the front. Maybe smooth that back out a little bit. Same thing here, just kind of blend it back in. Just making the high point the area on the back versus the smaller area in the front, which would be sort of underneath the scale. Just kind of smooth that out a little bit. Then we can use scrape and flatten as we did before to kind of flatten out some different areas. So let's go ahead and just bring this all the way to the back. Smooth it out a little bit. Same thing here. Go back in with your scrape or flatten and see how much detail we're getting here. So we're not getting a lot, so we can come in with flatten and just flatten that up. Use the knife to define the area behind here a little bit more. So just use that to make a more defined sort of scale here. Same thing here, just use that to define it a little bit more and go all the way back. And just better define that. Okay, and then you can go back and try using scrape or flatten to make that a little bit more organic. Okay, just still here at level 5. So not able to get too much in the way of high frequency detail at this point. Kind of flatten that out. And maybe as it gets towards the front, it's a little bit less defined here, but we can still sort of define that backside a little. So something like that. So you can add detail like that if you want to, or if you want to add something different, just as with everything else, you're welcome to do that as well. Okay, so we still have some scales that we want to add, but I think for the most part, that's kind of the detail that I want to add here. Now we are going to get into, when we do the scales, you're going to have some scales here along the mouth. Okay, and so, but we'll handle that when we talk about doing the small scales that we're going to get to. Okay, so you want to kind of come in here, and maybe you can, again, just pinch in the corner of the mouth a little bit, use the knife. You want to get that sort of fleshy bit coming around the edge and then define that underneath the jaw. So once we've got that defined, let's go ahead and start to do some sculpting on the neck here, which we want to have this really soft, wrinkly looking piece here under the neck. So let's go ahead and work on that section in the next lesson.